Okay, picture this. It's early March 2026. A conflict that's been simmering for years suddenly just boils over in the Middle East. And we're not talking about a small regional skirmish here, no. This is a war with massive global implications. So you're probably asking, how did we even get here? What exactly went down in those first few crazy days? And what does it mean for the rest of us? Well, we're going to break it all down.
So let's dive right into the chaos of the first few days. To really get what's going on, we have to understand that initial shock, that intense, wild period of military action that basically set the stage for everything that came after. It all kicked off on February 28th. That's the day. A combined force of American and Israeli warplanes and missiles struck deep inside Iran. And these weren't just random strikes, not at all. They were aimed right at the heart of Iran's power structure. We're talking its leadership, its security forces, and its most important military sites. Now, for people on the ground, this wasn't some abstract headline on the news. Imagine all of a sudden sirens are just wailing across the entire country of Israel. Reports started flooding in as families rushed to bomb shelters. It was official. The preemptive strike was happening, and the war, for so many, had truly begun. And almost immediately, the tragic human cost of this whole thing became brutally clear. In just the first 4 days, the Iranian Red Crescent reported a staggering number of deaths inside Iran. 787 people.
So a huge conflict like this doesn't just pop up out of nowhere, right? It might feel like it came out of the blue, but the truth is that final week was like a series of dominoes, one falling right after the other. To really understand the why behind it all, we've got to rewind and look at that critical week of escalation. You know, those final 72 hours were just a blur. It started with diplomacy failing. The very last hope for a nuclear deal just collapsed. And right after that, military preparations kicked into high gear with Israeli cities opening up their public bomb shelters. And then, the final domino, the launch of Operation Roaring Lion. The war was on.
So publicly, what was the reason given? Well, Washington and Jerusalem laid out a pretty sweeping list of justifications. This wasn't just about containing Iran. The goal was to systematically dismantle its military power. They wanted to shut down the nuclear program, wipe out the Navy, destroy missile sites, and weaken Iran's allies in the region. And they even went one step further, openly saying they wanted to help bring about regime change.
But here's the thing. This was never going to be a one-sided fight. Those first strikes were like throwing a lit match on a landscape soaked in gasoline. Iran's response was fast, it was powerful, and it didn't just target Israel. It lit a fire across the entire region.
The U.S. military's code name for its part of the mission, well, it kind of says it all. Operation Epic Fury. And it was furious. We're talking a strategy of overwhelming shock and awe. American forces hit more than 1,250 separate targets in the first 48 hours alone. Just think about that pace.
And as you'd expect, all that violence led to casualties on every side. As this chart shows, Iran definitely bore the heaviest losses right at the start. But it wasn't a bloodless operation for the attackers either. Both Israeli and U.S. forces reported losing personnel as the fighting escalated.
And this is absolutely crucial to understand. Iran's retaliation wasn't just aimed at Israel. Nope. They decided to widen the battlefield, going after American assets and allies all across the Persian Gulf. Suddenly, U.S. bases in Iraq were getting hit, embassies in Saudi Arabia, hotels in Bahrain. This wasn't a conflict between 3 countries anymore. This was a full-blown regional crisis.
And the effects? They rippled across the globe almost instantly. With missiles and drones flying everywhere, huge parts of the Middle East became a dangerous no-fly zone. For tens of thousands of regular people just trying to travel, it meant being stranded as international flights just ground to a halt.
So once the initial dust started to settle a little, a really critical question began to pop up. And not just from critics, but from analysts all over. Was this war actually necessary? Was it to stop some imminent threat? Or was this a war of choice?
You know, a lot of experts immediately started pushing back against that official narrative. The argument, which you see here from Nagar Mortazova, was that the U.S. was basically fighting a war for Israel, a conflict that she argues Israel had been pushing to make happen for years.
And this is where the politics get really, really fascinating. You have to remember, President Trump built his entire political identity on this America First anti-interventionist platform. He was famous for criticizing past leaders for nation building. So how do you square that with launching an all-out assault on Iran using the exact kind of language about bringing freedom that he used to condemn? It's a massive contradiction.
And what's even more striking is that this whole military campaign was launched even though the American people were overwhelmingly against it. Polling before the conflict was crystal clear. Almost 80% of Americans did not want a new war with Iran.
So, given all this chaos, all this controversy, what was the actual plan here? I mean, what did the people who started this war see as the endgame? Let's take a look at their stated objectives.
Well, the Trump administration laid out a very clear four-step vision for what they called victory. Step 1, destroy Iran's offensive missiles. Step 2, destroy its navy. Step 3, guarantee permanently that it could never get a nuclear weapon. And the last step, the most ambitious one, assist the Iranian people in taking over their own government. And President Trump predicted all of this could get done in just 4 to 5 weeks.
And that, right there, leaves us with the big, unanswered question hanging over this entire conflict. Is this really a swift, clean mission to guarantee security, like its planners claimed, or is this just the first chapter of a long, unpredictable, and incredibly costly new war, one that could reshape not just the Middle East but the entire world for decades to come?